Hi and welcome to this latest installment of GeoTalks Express. My name is Jeff Hatzel. I'm a Senior Application Specialist at Blue Marble. I believe this is our 10th webinar in the GeoTalks Express series. So for those of you who have been following along, welcome back. For those of you who are new, welcome. These GeoTalks Express started as a little bit of a spin-off of our annual GeoTalks webinars as a way to, continually reach out to our customers and keep in touch with everyone, especially now that everybody is working remotely. I hope you find today's session as useful as all the previous ones have been from all the great feedback we've received. For this session, we're going to be discussing web mapping and online mapping options in Global Mapper. So we're going to focus specifically on the MangoMap web map publishing tool in Global Mapper. And if time permits at the end, we'll take a look at some other online mapping related options within Global Mapper as well. Before we go any further, I should introduce my colleague. I'm joined today by Billy Noble, who's a application specialist here at Blue Marble. Can you hear me, Billy? How are you doing today?
I can hear you, Jeff. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. I hear it's hot in your part of the state. Able to keep cool these days?
Oh yes, it's prime time in Maine for
Yeah.
summer. The short 1 week that we have a year.
Good, good. So before we get going this morning, we'll just cover some basic housekeeping things for those of you who are newer. So today, all of our attendees are in listen-only mode. So hopefully you've heard Billy and myself by now, and we can hear each other, but we cannot hear you. So if you would like to give us any comments or any questions, the questions panel should be on the right-hand side in your little GoToWebinar window. So feel free to send us a comment or a question as they come up. We will do our best to get to those live, although that can be a little bit tricky for us. So if we can't get to them live, we'll follow up via email once the session is over. All of these sessions are also being recorded. So if you have to step away or you miss something or anything like that, once the video has been edited and uploaded to our YouTube channel, you will receive an email to whichever email address you use to sign up for the session with a link to this recorded session as well. So don't worry if you have to step away for a bit. As I mentioned when we first started, GeoTalks Express has been incredibly popular, more so than we imagined. And so we have a few now scheduled out, I think, almost through the rest of the year at this point. So next week, or in 2 weeks, I should say, we'll be looking at terrain analysis. So terrain analysis is always one of our very popular topics. So if this is something you're interested in, I would strongly encourage you to go ahead and register for that sooner than later, because there is a likelihood that that could fill up. After that, we'll have part 2 of our tips and tricks. So if you joined us for our first tips and tricks in Global Mapper, this will follow along that same vein. We'll look at some other useful information and workflows and functionality in the app that you may not be aware of, but things that we find very useful. And then to start off September, we're going to be exploring GeoCalc Online. So that's the online version of our geodetic registry. So we'll look at some new functionality available there as well. If you need to see any more details on any of these, or you want to see the longer list scheduled out through November, feel free to visit our GeoTalks Express webpage. So that's just bluemarblegeo.com/geotalksxp. You can see details on all the upcoming sessions. You can register there and find other FAQ information as well. Okay, so let's start thinking about what we're going to cover today. To start, I'm going to introduce MangoMap. We assume a lot of you are familiar with Global Mapper, but maybe not so familiar with MangoMap. So I will introduce Mango at a very high level, you can actually see on the right-hand side of my screen a little snippet from MangoMap's advanced search settings. After that, Billy's going to walk us through preparing data in Global Mapper. So how do I get my maps ready to export and upload to Mango? Billy's going to show us all the details in there. We'll talk about how if you don't have a Mango account yet, how you can set up a trial right within Global Mapper. It's very easy to do, so we'll talk about that. And then I'll discuss navigating the Mango interface a bit. So Mango is a great tool. We're going to show off some of the higher level tools and functionality to give you a feel of all the things that we can do with within MangoMap. Once our map's completed, we'll talk about all the great ways to share these maps. So they're web maps and they're very easily shareable. And then we'll wrap up probably back in Global Mapper, just discussing some other kind of web mapping related tools that Billy will walk through for us. So maybe not all of your workflows are pertinent for MangoMap. So we'll look at some things maybe like the online data tool, exporting to other web formats quickly, and some things like that kind of to wrap up today. I know normally our sessions are closer to an hour. Today might be a little bit shorter just because we're so focused really on one specific topic and functionality. So we won't keep you too long today. Billy, have I forgotten anything? Anything else I need to address kind of before we dive into what's Mango?
No, I think you have it well covered.
Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit, and we'll start talking about, at least at a high level, what is MangoMap for those of you who are new to it. So MangoMap is a cutting-edge web mapping platform. It's very simple to use. It's a user-friendly way to make engaging, insightful web maps. We partnered with MangoMap just about a year ago now, I guess, because this tool was first released with Global Mapper version 21, which will be a year old in September. It's a very simple to use online GIS to share web maps, and you can do this with anyone, anywhere, at any time. Mango has been around since about 2013, I believe. And last I heard, they have a great global presence. They have customers in over, I think I want to say 115 countries, if that's right. So they're all over the world. They're being used in all sorts of industries and organizations. One of the great things about MangoMap, and we'll see this a little bit later on when I get into demoing it live, is how accessible it is. And that applies both to, within your organization when you're making maps, and also when it comes to sharing them with your clients or whoever your audience is. So today Billy's going to walk us through designing a map in Global Mapper. That's our GIS desktop. We have our data there, all our expertise. But maybe when I upload that to Mango, someone else in my company is working on designing that map. The Mango UI is great. Who's ever working in it does not need to know any coding. Everything can be done right in the UI. The interface is fully customizable too. So as we get into things, you'll see certain tools can be added to certain maps, excluded from others. And we're going to look at a lot of those tools today to show how we can really put a map together. MangoMap will also handle all the major spatial file formats. So the map that Billy creates today will probably have a few different file formats in it, but Mango will handle that no problem. So it's just great that whoever works on the map then on the Mango side doesn't need to know, any heavy kind of scripting. For those of us who want to track our maps, Mango also has some integrated analytics and will integrate with other analytical tools. So if you're a consultant and you're making maps for your client, you can very easily report to your client, oh, this map's getting a lot of traffic, it's doing great, here's what it's telling us. Maybe on the flip side, you're a small municipality making web maps and you have a map that doesn't get a lot of traffic. Well, then you can take a look at that map, make some inferences and understand how you need to improve it. So great analytical tools as well. And so then when it comes to sharing your map, All of that is still browser based. So if you have a client or an end user, whoever your audience is, if they can use Google Maps or they can just basically navigate the web, as you'll see in a little bit, they'll be very easily able to navigate Mango. Your maps are shareable across all platforms. So whether we're talking desktop or mobile, just basic web navigation skills, you'll be able to interact with a MangoMap without any desktop GIS expertise needed like we may have. And then perhaps obviously one of our favorite features of Mango is now that it's seamless integration with Global Mapper. So over the years, we'd had a lot of feedback in terms of, I'd like to be able to somehow upload my map to the web from our users. And so adding this functionality to Global Mapper and allowing us to upload that map directly from the app to an online Mango hosted map site has really helped bring that functionality full circle for us. It increases the flexibility of Global Mapper's workspaces. Our customers and users now have an easy means to share their maps given all that great Mango functionality that I just highlighted. If you're already a Blue Marble customer, or even if you aren't, you can sign up for a MangoMap account directly through us as well. Billy, anything else we should highlight about Mango before I hand it over to you to show us some things on the Global Mapper side?
So just to clarify for our audience, it's as simple as creating a map in Global Mapper and being able to share a URL with anyone that I want for them to view.
Yeah, that's a great point. Once your map's created, like Billy said, it's just a web link, and he or I will show you that in a little bit, and it's just very easy to get to your map. But let me go ahead and give you the screen here, Billy, and you can talk us through getting everything set up on the Global Mapper side.
Awesome. Jeff, did I successfully get your screen share?
Yes, looks good. I can see Global Mapper.
Awesome. So essentially what I'm going to do here is I'm going to walk through creating a map, kind of a thematic map based on attribute values of this parcel layer of a town in Maine. And so eventually the end product will be this workspace. So all these colors, all these line styles that you see, and there's also some names for the map lots. These will be carried over into MangoMap, which Jeff will demonstrate later how to show. But I'm going to go through the steps of actually creating this thematic map and colorizing and digitizing the parcels and road layers by the attributes that I have. So I'll go back to my other workspace. So you see I have a parcel layer and I also have a road layer just to get a reference of where these parcels are in the town. And it's all black right now because nothing is styled based on an attribute. And what that means is I can kind of color code different values that I have in the shapefile of the parcel, and it will attribute a color to that value. So let me walk you through that right now. So here's the shapefile, and I want to look at what the attributes are. So I want to right click, go on the layer in the control center, and go to edit attributes. And you see I have many, many columns here. And I'm not really interested in all of these columns. What I'm mostly interested is the value. It's kind of a made-up value, land value that I based on the enclosed area of the parcel itself. So what I can actually do here is I can go to show and hide attributes, and I can clear all these columns out. And the only ones I'm really interested in is value and the map lot, which is essentially the ID of the parcel itself. So I click OK. It's drastically reduced, so I'm working with a cleaner attribute editor. So my next goal here is to style these parcels by the various colors based on the value of the properties. And actually, I can look as well using the feature info tool I can click on individual ones to see the value listed in the column here. So the alternative way of seeing this as well is using the feature info tool. So to be able to style these, you also would want to go to the right-click options menu in the control center of the layer, and then going to options. And there's a tab here called area styles. This is what controls all the styling of area features. For line layers, it will say line styles, and if I had a layer for points, it would say point styles. So from here, I want to apply attribute or styling based on an attribute, which is the value column. And this will be listed in this drop-down menu. It should be at the bottom. So I could go through the effort of entering a new value every time and having an associated color for it. So I could make it a solid fill. Click OK. And let's say the value is 10. So if I apply this, it will just go to everything. There's no differentiation between the values here. But I actually have already created a line style or area style layer, which I can simply upload. It's called load style file. And this was created beforehand. So if you were doing a project where you had the same attributes, but for different shape values or shape files, but you had a column that was the same, you could save the style file to a location on your computer, and you could use that for successive projects that you're looking to do. So if I was going to do this for different towns in Maine with different parcels, I could simply click load style file, and it will load these associated styles for each value in each project. So let's take a look and see what this looks like. So once I have this loaded in, just click apply and click OK. And now you see that the parcels have changed colors based on the attributes of the land value column. And if I wanted to, I could also select a feature with a digitizer and change the visualization manually by going to edit. And I can customize the style of rendering a specific feature. So I could change the transparency, click OK. Oh, it's not going to really reflect, but I have an imagery layer. But yeah, if I wanted to do that to various features, I could individually change the looks of each of the features. So I also want to do the same thing to my public roads layer here. So if I hide my parcel layer again, all the roads are the same, but I want to style these based on what type of road there are. So since I'm from the area, I know that this is an interstate. I know this is a state route. I know some of these little ones are just private roads. So I also can do the same thing here by loading a style file based on attributes. So I'll go back to the options, go to the line styles tab, and these are all the same kind of menus from area to lines. So if I click here again, and I go, so I don't want a value one this time. If I want it based on what type of road it is, ahead of time I checked, and it was Federal Fung CCLS, a fun name. So if I go to load style file, and I should go up one level and go to road styles and click open. See, I have all the predefined attributes here with associated line style. So I can click apply, and those will change. I will also note that all of these lines are fixed widths and not pixel widths on the screen. So if I zoom in, they are actually a fixed width to the ground. So see, it's getting bigger and bigger, and that's because that is a ground fixed line style width, which I can actually show you. If I go here, go to edit, it's a 6-meter wide line. So basically that is always going to stay constant in your workspace. So when you zoom out, it should get smaller and smaller.
Hey, Billy, we just had a kind of related question come in, and I know you touched on this, but maybe you could reiterate. Somebody asked, what if they don't want to use a style file, and what if they just want to manually color or stylize a feature? Can you show us where that is in the menu again?
Certainly. So I could go to Options and go to Area Styles. And you can actually just add a different value here. Let's do this type of pattern. Click OK. And let's see what I don't. Let's do 60,000. So that's, you can also manually add. So basically what I just did there is I manually added a new value for a style. And so what the idea is here, if you have like 5 or 6 or 7 of these, you can just save it again, or you can save the list of styling based on values to your computer and use it again later on. But let's say I do this. I go back to the beginning and nothing is styled based on any attributes. As I did here earlier, the style layer overrode my transparency that I had set manually. So the other way was to go and select with the digitizer tool on a parcel and use the right-click menu and edit an area feature to custom a style however you want individually. And yet you could do this parcel by parcel, but for a large project where you want certain values to be reflected by a color, using the menu here in the options, the area styles, the setup values for yourself is much quicker. And I actually want to show one more thing. Let's go back and turn on my styling based on attributes back to the value. So I click apply and it resets. So another thing here is I can actually add a legend to the workspace. I can do this by going to the configuration menu. I'm going to map legend. Currently it's set at none. But what I want to do is create a legend showing what each color is for each value. So I can display the legend based on a loaded vector type. And I don't want the line layer to show. I'm only concerned about the parcel layer. So what I want to do is filter the layer out. I can do that by unchecking the road layer shapefile in the filter layer menu and click OK. And I'm just going to click apply here. I'm not going to add a footer or a header yet, and just see where this goes. It should be right in the bottom right corner, and there it is. So if you shared this workspace with someone or a GMP file, then they would also see this this legend appear. So there's kind of more context to what you're looking at. So if I added a header, I could put land value. Click apply. It's even more context to actually show you what this map is actually talking about. So I'm actually going to close out of this.
But before you move away from talking about styling, we had a couple other questions come in. I think people were interested. Someone asked, and if you know the answer to this, can I bring in a template file from another application and apply it in Global Mapper?
I think you have a better answer for this, Jeff.
So
sometimes it is kind of tricky based on other programs. I think the style file function is mostly for GM files.
yep. So
yep.
yeah, so you can move style files between Global Mapper very easily, but importing from other applications gets tricky because sometimes they're proprietary, or we don't have the library to write them. One thing we can do, Billy, if you just go to the layer style window, if you have something in what's called the SLD format, you can load right from an SLD file. So that you could load.
Yep, yep.
Somebody asked while you're here, Billy, showing how you save a style file. Maybe just highlight that button for them. So
Sure.
once you've set up your styling here.
Yep. So I have this these styles all listed out that I want to save and use again at a later date. I would just click this button at the top called Save Style File, not Load, Save Style File, and it just immediately opens up a file browser to save as window that you can save, and it will save as a .gm layer style file.
Yep. And that's just a basic text file. So if you ever were curious to look at it, you could take a look and read its structure. I wouldn't recommend manually making one necessarily, but you could easily take a look at it.
Yep. So the next thing I wanted to show you was some of our new labeling functionality. So as you saw in this other workspace, I have map lots all labeled and ID'd here. Before, you couldn't really edit these manually, like with a digitizer type of function, but now you can with this new feature here, and to show you this. So what I want to do is label these by the map lot. So if I go back and I right click on the shapefile, I go to the options window. And right now, I have display labels for the layer, but it's not pointing to anything right now. So what I want to do is assign the map lot ID. So when I click this use selected attribute value, it's going to look at the attributes of that shapefile, and I can go down to map book lot, click apply. And this other menu will pop up to choose how you want to apply the attribute value. And I will put replace. All these features are unnamed features if you actually look in the attribute editor, but now I will assign the name based on the map lot ID. So click OK and click OK. You will see all the labels appear for the map lot ID on the parcels. If you notice here, as I zoom into some of these smaller parcels, you'll start to see all of them being ID'd here, but if I zoom out, they start being hidden, and it's kind of a function of because they're overlapping, they won't all display. But there is a function here in the configuration to change that so all labels will display. And it's simply going to vector display labels and checking this box called display all labels, and I click apply. And now they'll be seen at any zoom level. And this is kind of hard to look at, so this is why it isn't the default setting in Global Mapper. So I'll just uncheck that so it's easier on the eyes here. So what I want to show you is how to kind of individually change labeling based on maybe kind of like how small the lot is, or if I want to rotate labels based on the dimension of the lot. So actually what I want to do here now is create a separate label layer to work on. And this is the only way you can do it. There is a select labels button in this digitizer toolbar, and this is not enabled until you have a label layer. So if I right click on the layer in the control center, go to options and check this box for create separate label layer and click apply. You see that a new layer in the control center is generated called the parcel Sydney shape labels layer. So essentially it's kind of like a point styles layer, but all these points they don't actually have a point feature, they just have a text feature with them. So I hide these. You can still see the labels displayed. And now if you look in the digitizer menu, the select labels option is enabled now. So I can just select, say, 1 point, and I can move it up here. I right click again and move the label down here. I can also select groups of labels, and I can edit them all at the same time. I'll actually show you how to manually edit right now. I'll just select it, and you right click, and you'll have the functions to change label text and label styles. So let's give it a rotation. Say there's a checkbox at the bottom to rotate labels at a specific angle, degrees counterclockwise. Let's do like -30. And you see that's reflected in the change in the workspace. Let's move that back. So I could also rotate groups. As I said, I can select multiple labels at the same time. So they're both selected. And if I right click and go to edit style of selected labels, I can also give these a rotation of -30. I can also increase the font size of both of them, make them bold. And just clicking OK, it changes the style for those two layers. As you see again,
oh, sorry to
go
interrupt
ahead.
you, Billy. I was just going to say a lot of this is great, especially I was thinking about when you showed all the labels displayed at once. So if you ever need all your labels displayed on the map like you showed, you can then go in and style them appropriately so they're not all overlapping and jumbled.
Yep. So this is essentially of how the label layer functionality works. So before, you couldn't create this one in previous versions of Global Mapper. They were kind of all, kind of done at the same time. Let's see, options. I think it's because I have a label there now. Let's close it. See, so once I get rid of my layer in the control center of labels, and if you go back to the vector options, the labels tab reappears for that file. So you can go back and maybe you want to change it so it's values that are present as labels now. And click apply. Actually, I don't want to update. Yep. So just click OK. Set to value. I think I have a setting that's messing that one up. But essentially, if you get rid of this label layer and go back, you can reassign how you want to style that layer.
So we just had one last label question come in. Sorry to interrupt you again, but somebody was asking if, and I think you just showed this setting actually, can my label layer still be linked to the original feature? So like if you update a value, and the option Billy showed for that was when he was choosing to start the label layer, he has the option to link it, and that will link it to its original feature. So yes, that can be done as well.
Yep, I think that's what I just ran into, back to the original feature.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I think Jeff will show kind of how labeling is in the Mango maps. So at this point, I actually, for my project, I don't want to use the created labels in my workspace. So I want to just upload this now to MangoMap. And I was just going to touch on the base map that I have here. I have world imagery loaded as in this workspace. So what I could do, I could export this file with the world imagery in the background as a raster. But the MangoMap actually has base maps built into it. So maybe for digitizing purposes, I want to have the world imagery layer or a topo map behind my parcel layer. But exporting the MangoMap, I will turn it off because because Jeff will have a base map in MangoMap to show. So once I get this far in the project and I'm ready to upload it, to the web for people to view, I want to go to this icon here called Publish to MangoMap. It's the MangoMap logo. And what this is going to do is going to open up a prompt to log in. But from here, Jeff's going to take it away to show you actually how to get a login and activate a trial of MangoMap.
Great, thanks, Billy. Yeah, so if he had his account already here, Billy would continue as normal and upload. We're going to talk about how we can set up a trial if you want to try this out for yourself. So let me grab the screen back from you, Billy. And so here we are talking about how we can now upload our map to Mango. So you'll see we'll pick up right where Billy left off there once you click the MangoMap extension button. The very first thing you do is just log into your Blue Marble account. So the same information you enter when going to our website, you'll enter here. Once you'll do that, you'll be prompted with two things. Either you can connect to an order you already purchased through us. In this case, we haven't done that. So we're going to choose to create a new MangoMap trial account. Fairly straightforward. And then you're asked to enter some information. So standard stuff to set up an account, your name, an email address, and a password. One thing I'll highlight here, and don't want to forget to point out, whatever display name you choose for your account is also what will show up in your web URL. So if that matters to you, keep that in mind. I'll actually show an example of that here in a second. Once your account is created, you will get a confirmation. So you'll notice you have your trial name, so the display name, right, my trial account, and then your map portal URL, and we'll look at that shortly, has your display name as part of that URL. So that's how you identify your map portal. So if that happens to matter to you, just make sure you're choosing an appropriate display name for that map. Other than that, you would then choose, pretty straightforward, just to connect to the account you just made and hit OK. And then the window we would have seen on Billy's side would then be the upload to MangoMap window. That is a very straightforward process. You give your map a name or a title, then you give it a description, and you can choose a default base map. So Billy was talking about how he may have some imagery displayed in Global Mapper as a base map, but we just want to choose a Mango built-in base map. And actually, Billy, that leads me to a question I forgot to ask you. So when we're uploading to Mango, can you tell us how much data we can upload?
So for vector files, you can keep uploading as many workspaces you want, or map files that you want with vectors. If you have workspaces with raster data, it starts to be taken out of how much quota you have. But there's more information that you can find on their Mango site. I think also we'll touch a little bit about pricing as well later on.
Yep. So essentially, since raster data will count against your plan's quota, if you don't need it, you might as well use one of the default base maps, and they have a ton that we'll look at shortly. So this would complete the upload process. You would get a confirmation in Global Mapper with a link to your map portal. So we're gonna change gears now. We're gonna leave Global Mapper and we are gonna go into our Mango map portal. So what you should all be seeing now is this is Blue Marble's, or one of our test Mango map portals. So once you have a Mango account, your home page will be this map portal page. You'll have your list of maps on the main map page there. Anything that's grayed out just hasn't been published yet. Anything with a thumbnail is a published map. And so we're going to work on actually the map that Billy uploaded a little earlier. We find that in our map list. Happens to be in the town of Sydney, so it's called our Sydney map. When you open your map, I've already got it loaded in a separate tab here. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So our map loads centered on our data. I actually forgot to specify that or highlight that on the export page, but there is a checkbox that allows you to center on your data. So our map load centered on our data, and when we exported Billy's data, we chose a terrain-based map. So that's exactly what we're seeing here. And you'll notice the Mango interface is very clean. There's not a lot going on. We have some expandable toolbars that we'll begin to interact with. If I want, I can even collapse my top toolbar so I get just a little bit more screen real estate. And so first thing we're going to look at is our toolbar on the right-hand side. Now, when I hover over this, we'll see I get a little label for what my options are. So I have my map legend, base map options, and bookmarks. If I expand this, I can see all the data that Billy exported from Global Mapper. So yes, I actually do have my labels. They're turned off for now, and we'll talk about why in a second. But more importantly, all of that styling work that Billy did in Global Mapper was retained on export. So all of my roads and all of my parcels and any other data I might have uploaded will retain the styling. We'll see in a little bit that if we had made a label layer like Billy did, the location of those labels and anything like that would have been retained as well. So it's a great way to get all your styling and stuff set on the Global Mapper side, and then upload it and have that retained right on MangoMap. And so navigating here is very intuitive. I can use my scroll wheel to zoom in or out. Clicking and dragging with the left mouse key pans me around. I could conduct that same action with using the mouse wheel as a button. So very intuitive, if you've navigated in Global Mapper or any other web map, very similar controls. Now let's look at some of the more advanced settings that are going to help us make our map a little bit more complete. And we'll start on our left-hand toolbar here. So we're going to work through a lot of these options and settings to talk about how we can make more of a complete map and how we can get it ready to be shared, whether that's with customers, colleagues, whoever it may be. The first thing we're going to take a look at is our layers. So we have our layers just all displayed by default here, but I may want to make some changes to that. When I open my layer options, we'll see that I can adjust specific layers. I can adjust the base map and my legend. Let's take a look at the base map first. So maybe I've decided that I don't want to have this terrain base map. Maybe I prefer OpenStreetMaps. Anytime I make a change, my map will re-render. But now I can see I have that new base map here as part of my data set. So that setting is a global setting, whereas this base map option here is just one the user can change their display while they're looking at their map. But this is the overall setting for the default setting for the map. Let's take a look at layers for a second though. So when it comes to editing layers, and I had hinted that I wanted to adjust my labels layer. So I can choose a layer and edit it. And what I'm going to do, first thing, maybe I want to edit the layer name. It doesn't need to say layer labels. It can just say labels. If I wanted to give the layer a description, I could do that as well. Now, Billy showed us in Global Mapper all the different ways we can stylize those points, whether we're enforcing showing all points or moving them and rotating them so they appear better on the screen. One of the great things we can do on the Mango side is adjust the zoom level at which they're displayed. So let's say for argument's sake, I don't need to see my labels at this zoom level, right? We're so far zoomed out, it would just overfill my screen. So let's maybe only have those labels come on when I'm zoomed in a little bit more. And I'll just choose zoom level, let's just go with 16 here. I can also, if I want, get into a whole bunch of other formatting options up here. It's a little bit beyond today though. So when I save that and my map re-renders and updates, what we'll see now under my labels, so I also have the name of my labels has been adjusted. If I turn the layer on, it will not be grayed out any longer. And we'll see I get a little alert that says zoom in 5 steps to view this layer. So that's telling me that this is controlled by a zoom level setting. As I begin to zoom into my map, once I hit my label threshold, which should be right there, my map will now render all those labels. So a great way that I can only see the labels as necessary for my zoom level. You can always adjust this zoom level as needed, but we'll see now the labels display when necessary, but as I zoom out, they shut off again so they're not cluttering my screen. Let's take a look now at a whole variety of tools that are part of the MangoMap interface. So first thing, let's take a look. Let's look at some visualization options. So just some ways to improve visualizing our map. One tool I want to point out, we're not going to look at this today because we're not working with the data for it, but the comparison map option is similar to the swipe tool in Global Mapper. So you can swipe data on and off. So maybe I have 2 layers sitting on top of each other. Maybe I have my parcel values from year 1 and then 10 years down the road. I could easily swipe on and off between layers. So a great tool to be aware of. The measure tool is very handy. So let's turn on my measure tool and we'll see, we'll leave that as metric. So we'll see now that I get a little measure tool option on my right-hand toolbar here. I can choose either to measure line distances or areas. Let's just click and maybe I'll measure along this road here. And it will report the total distance of whatever line measurement I made. An area measurement would be conducted similarly. I like to just keep my legend open. One of my favorite pieces of functionality is the mouse highlight. So this allows me to choose a certain feature and highlight it when I mouse over it. So in this particular data set, I like to do this for the roads. And the reason for that is, right, my area features, my tax parcels, they stand out. They're bigger features. I can see them easily. But if I want to select or look at a road, they're a little bit smaller and I want to make sure I'm clicking on the right one. So if you'll notice my cursor, I mouse over this road here and it highlights. So now I can much more easily see that, and I'll just move over that a couple times and you can see that road highlight. Helps me confirm that when I click on it, I'm clicking on the feature I want to click on. So any vector data that you click on here will open the attributes associated with that feature. Now in Global Mapper, Billy hid some attributes, but he didn't delete them. So since they were just hidden, they're also retained as part of that upload. I don't have to select a layer that's set for highlight though. I could select an unhighlighted layer and I'll still see the attribute information associated with that feature. Back in our toolbox, let's take a look at some information and display options. So we have some great sort of geospatial tools associated with Mango as well. If my map was maybe one I'm gearing towards users only using on mobile devices, I could enable a geolocation so that they could see their location and movements on the map while they're out in the field. I am nowhere near this data now, so there's no sense in turning it on, but if I was, we could zoom right or have my location displayed on the screen. If you need to put a custom copyright information, you could do that too. The 2 tools I want to look at first are my mouse position. And now we'll see I have a latitude longitude reported here on my toolbar. And as I move my cursor, that dynamically updates as part of my map. my scale bar will also be dynamic, and that'll show up right next to my location information. And as I zoom in and out, my scale bar will adjust appropriately based on my zoom level. So a real handy way to help make navigating our app much more, give us much more information while completing that process. We'll look at a couple more tools quick here because we're getting a little shorter on time than I expected. Our search and analysis tools. So Mango has a variety of ways we can search data. I could search, basic by address, or even some very advanced search functionality. We can take a look at querying or proximity analysis. So maybe I'm looking at features in relation to other features. For today, though, we're just going to set up a custom search. And this is a great way to allow users on your map to search for certain features. So what I want to do, I can even change the name of this tool if I don't want it to say advanced search. Maybe I want that to say custom search, whatever. I can choose a name for my search, a layer which I'm searching against, again, my parcels layer. And what I want to do here, how I have this set up, is to search based on the identifying attribute. And so when I apply that now, my users will have an advanced search option here. And so if I remember the parcel name that I want to search, when I search for it, assuming it exists, we will be centered on it and it will be selected. So yep, I did remember that name properly. And when I go ahead and click on it, I'll see that same attribute information reported that we saw earlier. Last thing I'll highlight before we talk about sharing is some of our settings. So these are more high-level map settings, changing things like the title and description. We talked about when exporting a map, where the map is centered when it loads. You can customize that too, along with some other layout and tools panel options. Okay, so let's say we are at the point now where my map has all of my features I want it to have on it. I've got my label set to display at a certain zoom. I have my location and scale bar on. I have measurement tools, advanced search tools. Now let's talk about how we can share this. Because you may want to share it in-house, you may want to share it with customers. Our access options allow us to choose at what level this map is accessible. So maybe it requires a password, so only someone with the proper password can access the map. Or maybe you've set up some users or groups in your enterprise Mango account, so only maybe your marketing team or the few people who edit maps have access to it. So you can control all of that in terms of who can access your map. Then comes the how do we access the map? And that's all done through sharing. So the export process, when we saw in Global Mapper, it will report a little URL for you directly to this map, but you can also choose a whole variety of ways Mango has enabled on how we can share them. You can have a direct link embedded in an email. All the major social media options can be accessed from here as well. So a whole variety of ways in which we can share the map that we have just created. Let's see here. Looks like we had some questions coming, Billy.
Yeah, someone touched about, or someone asked about kind of what is the general pricing of MangoMap?
Oh, good question. For that, I am going to say, so we try to not get into the nitty gritty of sales here. Take a look at our MangoMap page on our website. So if you go to our homepage, there's a MangoMap section listed right under Global Mapper. That'll talk about your subscription options, some other resources, and a whole bunch of details about MangoMap in Global Mapper. So go there for all of your, sort of purchasing, pricing type questions. I see a couple people asked us about 3D. MangoMap does not have any 3D functionality as of now. So you would only be looking at data in 2 dimensions. So anything else, Billy, we need to touch on for the Mango side? We have just a few more minutes. I think maybe it would be useful for us to have you show a few other web mapping things in Global Mapper.
Sure.
Okay, let me go ahead and give you the screen back.
Okay, so here we are back in Global Mapper. I'm just going to show you how to quickly view this data in Google Earth. So this is a zoom function, and you have to select your features of the digitizer. So I have the digitizer enabled, and if I select, I'll select all my parcels. Actually, let's turn off the road layer. I just want my parcel data to be viewed in 3D. So they're all selected. You see that they're highlighted by red. And this was shown in a tips and trick, I think, at one point. But if I go to zoom view, there's an option here at the bottom to view in Google Earth if you have that installed on your machine. And I want to click yes to view in Google Earth. It quickly packages up a little KML file, which you can view and overlay right over the town of Sydney here. So I'll close out of this and discard. So these have to be selected for this to work. If you don't select anything, nothing will be shown in Google Earth, essentially. And just a couple other things here. We do also have the options to export these to different web formats. You can export this map by going to File, Export menu, and you see we have Export Web Format. We have a variety of different formats that you can export to. We have Bing Map tiles, Google Map tiles, KML as you just saw. We also have OpenStreetMap tiles, and we have a couple other tiles at the bottom here as well. And I can just open up a dialog to show you the different settings here. Okay. So essentially you want to click your zoom level, what type of tile image format you want. We have much more advanced settings here on the right side. You have export bounds based on loaded data, or certain bounding blocks of lat long if you want, or you can simply draw a box on a particular section of your data, and it'll only export that. I won't go through the export process here, but this is essentially the export options window. Most of this is similar throughout the different type of web formats that you have. And I think those are the last 2 things I wanted to cover, Jeff. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about, or?
No, I think we hit on the majority of things. I know a few of you asked questions we didn't get to live, so we will follow up with you on those. Other than that, we're more or less at the end of the hour. So I just would like to thank everyone for coming today. I hope that this was another useful GeoTalks Express session for you. If you have any immediate questions, feel free to contact our sales team. So that would be the email address on your screen, orders@bluemarblegeo.com. They can talk about pricing, details of plans, and everything else. This will be, somebody asked earlier, a Mango subscription is separate from your Blue Marble application purchase, so separate from Global Mapper. If you start getting into this and maybe you decide to mess with a trial of Mango, and you have any questions with that, you can email us at support, geohelp@bluemarblegeo.com, and you might even get Billy or myself to touch base with you. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your summer, and hopefully we'll see you next time for terrain analysis in Global Mapper. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.